What's up, everybody? I am back with a new reaction video. This one I came across because it had something to do with the Powerpuff Girls, and I freaking love that show back in the day. This content creator is named Jeremy Senpai. I like to make sure I give the props where it's due, so make sure you check out his channel. You might get a kick out of some of his content. But I really want to react to this particular video because this really caught my eye with the thumbnail. Femme Fatale is a hypocrite. Powerpuff Girls equal fights. I distinctly remember this episode because, well, we'll get into it. But before I continue, please hit that like button. Follow me in the links in the description below, like my YouTube and Twitch channels, as I react to videos, review content, and stream video games. And let me know what was your favorite Powerpuff Girls episode and what was your favorite villain. I think the first time I actually reviewed Powerpuff Girl content was this past Christmas season, as I reviewed the Christmas special, The Fight Before Christmas. Pretty sure that's what it was called. But anyway, without further ado, hopefully there's no like copyright thing I have to worry about, but let's see.
This episode proves that equal rights mean equal fights. Hello, Jeremy Senpai here, and for today's episode, we're talking about probably the most divisive episode in the whole Powerpuff Girls fanbase. I am talking about equal fights. The episode opens up with the girls going about their day until the hotline picks up and they're off to the bank, where we meet the villain for the episode, Femme Fatale, who demands Susan B. Anthony coins instead of hundreds, just because they have a woman on them instead. The girls are quick to catch her, but Femme Fatale starts talking her way out of this, claiming she's committing these crimes for the better.
I gotta say, like, the effort put into the creation of Femme Fatale's costume and name was genius. Femme Fatale is like a typical, almost, like a spy trope kind of name, where it's like a mysterious woman, like, my phone starts. I can't really put like an exact definition, but let me just go. Let me just really quick, because I don't want to sit there and just butcher the definition. Okay. Femme fatale, an attractive and seductive woman, especially one who is likely to cause distress or disaster to a man who becomes involved with her. Femme fatale. So clearly, yeah, growing up, the first time I actually heard the term femme fatale was in like spy movies, where like the female villain spy will be, traditionally known as a femme fatale. Something like a honeypot, which is like femme fatales pretend to be some kind of escort or something that kind of lures a man in who has certain information that you try to get off of him, via sex. But then you got the costume, whereas got the female symbol on it, down from the mask down to the pants. She doesn't even like wear like a traditional like dress. It's kind of like a pantsuit kind of thing, kind of pushing away the gender norms. So there's a lot of work put into this character, and I really appreciate. It's a shame that she wasn't shown more, because probably even talked about more. I think most people talked about probably like Sedusa and Princess and him and Fuzzy Lumpkins, they talk about like more people talk more of those kind of characters, and Femme Fatale, I guess, kind of fell by the wayside right along with something like the Mime, which is also, I really like that freaking villain too.
Women's rights, even saying that she's the only female villain in the city. By the way, no, she isn't, but we'll get to that when we get to that. Then she plays on the girls by bringing up male superheroes, like Superman and Batman. The girls bring up Supergirl and Batgirl. Femme Fatale says,
I can't believe they actually get away with like bringing up like other superheroes in this world. And this is before we have to worry about like copyrighted stuff. Powerpuff Girls can easily reference Star Wars or even like the Justice League animated film Crisis on Two Earths. That was a reference to Star Wars. Right now DC would never or could never make a reference to that without getting in trouble. It was good old days. Right? We didn't have to worry about that kind of stuff.
that they are just going off the names of well-known male superheroes, and that there's no real female superheroes. The girls list Wonder Woman, but can't think of anyone else. Okay, I feel like I have got to interject here. Yes, it is true that when it comes to legacy superheroes like Supergirl and Batgirl, they are just add-ons when going off of big names like, well, Batman and Superman. But she is wrong saying there's no other female superheroes other than Wonder Woman. Okay, let's see here. There's Black Canary, Huntress, Fire and Ice, Stargirl, Zatanna, Vixen, Starfire, Raven, Bumblebee, and these are just the DC superheroes. I haven't even gone into Marvel. Also, by the way, Supergirl and Batgirl would later take on new mantles, becoming Power Girl and Oracle respectively.
Yeah. So even back then, as I remember the episode, because I read a fair amount of comics as a kid, and I could had easily rattle off other female superheroes, not even just with the DC, but in like the Marvel comics as well. And is it, I get in terms of the writing, they're trying to make some kind of a point on Femme Fatale side, but I'd be hard pressed to like no the other girls couldn't name other female superheroes beyond just Wonder Woman. And of course, I think Oracle, didn't really the title in the position didn't really exist because I don't know if the Killing Joke happened just yet at the time of that episode's airing. I might be wrong. Might have been around the same general area, but no. It probably would have happened because like the Powerpuff Girls would be like late '90s, get into the 2000s, and I know the Killing Jokes was like early to mid '90s. So yeah, definitely Oracle would have existed by that point. So yeah, they could have easily named like Oracle. They could Starfire. They could have easily named a plethora. Yeah, it's very weird. But I guess they're little kids, so I guess you gotta have them kind of stumped for a while. But I can't imagine like Powerpuff Girls being that gullible because time of that episode airing, there was like a couple of seasons in already. They've been like superheroing for quite some time. So getting like punked like this, it should really not have happened.
But I think I've proven my point. Moving on and back to the plot. FEMME FATALE convinces the girls to let her go, claiming that it's supposed to be for the cause. The girls
And God, that very rarely. I don't want to say this is like the stupidest thing that the girls have done, but because it's not like there hasn't been a precedent in superhero history where the hero, given some crazy reason, some like something like a existential circumstances that warrants them to let the supposed villain go. Because I could think of like Batman Noel in the comic, the Bob Cratchit, who's like a bag handler for the Joker. Typically, he would have been put like would have been in prison short time, but still technically he still committed a crime by associating with a known criminal mastermind. However, given the extensive circumstances in that comic, if you read it, I reviewed it, so you can check it out. Batman understood, he deep down is a good person at heart. He got caught up and stuff because like a job and resources and the holidays, and he want to be able to be there for his son because he's the only one looking after him. So things like that would warrant a hero to easily, like, with a clear conscience, look the other way and not, have further, stuff fall onto this guy's lap. Femme Fatale doesn't fall in that category. And it's just like on the basis of, oh, she's a female, so, and she got to deal with like a bad rap because of her gender. But it's like, you caught her robbing a bank. And I don't care if it was stealing Susan B. Anthony coins. That's a robbery. And it's a federal crime. There was no like existential circumstances behind that, and I'm just shocked how the girls was that gullible.
let her go, resulting in Femme Fatale going on a crime spree with nobody to stop her. And ever since that conversation, the girls start seeing the world through this now biased lens. Keep in mind here, these girls are in kindergarten. They are at that young, impressionable age.
And yeah, sure. Like, that is not lost on me too. Yeah, they're very young, but that kind of balances out by the fact that they've been superheroing for quite some time. Now, if this was like maybe at the very most their first year as a superhero, then I would grant them that for their naivete, because they're young and they have not been at this for a while. But it's been like at least a few years in, and they would not have, and they've seen a lot. They would not, especially doing the worst of the worst, like him and Mojo Jojo. No way they'll fall for something as pitiful as what Femme Fatale just like finessed them with.
And they have been influenced by the bad guys before. One example is where a boy and a girl are playing catch and the girl falls over, and the girls confront the boy thinking that he did it on purpose. While the girls think that they've done good, Miss Keene realizes that something is wrong. The girls fly home where they meet the professor, who has cleaned the entire house, and asks the girls to clean their bedroom. In response, the girls shoot him a death glare. And I just want to point out here that the professor has already cleaned the entire house and asked them to clean their own bedroom. So, he is both respecting their privacy, but at the same time he's asking for them to be responsible for their own space. In name, He's basically saying that they should be responsible for cleaning their own bedroom. It's the least that they can do since, he cleaned the entire house. Later, the mayor calls the girls and asks them to deal with FEMME FATALE, only for the girls to blow up at him and
I'm just shocked. Like, all right, let's just say they grant, like, okay, they understood what Femme Fatale was, spewing. But the fact that when they hear that she's still committing crimes and didn't stop, Prima's, got like a free pass, but then abused that. That should have like kind of clued them in, like, we just got scammed. But no, they think it's like perfectly fine just on the basis of the fact that she's a female. That's like, you never let that ride with like Princess ever. They will never let that like slide with Princess ever.
tell him to do it.
As your next Cook County Commissioner.
Oh, shoot. They didn't let Sedusa manipulate and hurt the professor. Him being a man, they wouldn't have thought twice and let her do whatever she wanted. But they knew that this woman was dead wrong. It's kind of wild.
Oh yes, the mayor. This senior citizen, who's even more immature than the girls are, is going to fight crime. Because that went so well the first time. The mayor, the lovable fool that he is, believes the girls and leaves the office thinking he needs to make it up to the women of the city, even though he hasn't really done anything wrong. Now, Miss Bellum realizes that something is wrong. The girls get a call from Miss Bellum where she and Miss Keene have a little intervention, and you gotta give credit to these two. They don't scold the girls, they don't get angry, because the girls won't learn the lesson that way. Instead, they talk to the girls through everything they've experienced, and the girls realize for themselves that there was no real injustice. It was just how they were perceived after speaking with Femme Fatale, and she influenced them. The boy and the girl were really just playing a game. The professor already cleaned the house and asked for the girls to clean their own room, and the mayor calls them to fight crime and protect the city because they are superheroes. It's their job. The girls are starting to see the cracks in what they were told, but still believe that Femme Fatale is doing this for the right reasons, even saying that we girls have to look out for each other. And then enters 3 women. Each of them have been victimized by Femme Fatale. One is a bank manager who was robbed by Femme Fatale. One is a police officer who got her arm broken by Femme Fatale. And the last claims that Femme Fatale stole her hairstyle. Okay, granted, this is played more as a joke. The girls finally see the light. That, yes, there is injustice in the world. That's why we have superheroes, or even just heroes in general, to stand up for what's right. Femme Fatale is fresh off another heist.
God, and this moment has been seared into my brain. With like, them just fuming over that trick that Femme Fatale pulled on them, and just breaking down the history of Susie B. Anthony. There's a lot more to Susie B. Anthony. I encourage you guys to do some research, because like, she wasn't this all positivity for females. She had ulterior motives, breaking up the nuclear family for one thing, and then there was other machinations. There wasn't all about like getting like equal rights to like females and stuff like that. There was ulterior motives. Not to say there wasn't like certain things that feminism provided for women, and not treating them like second-class citizens. But there was other stuff beyond that, and they just kind of use it as like a good shield while certain individuals manipulate things behind the scenes to just kind of break up the nuclear family, getting two incomes into one household, getting more women into debt, even though they want to have their own credit cards, but then they end up incurring the most debt in the U.S. And the whole nuclear family kind of got turned upside down, pretty much. It was a lot, It was not solely on the good graces of female advocacy. But that aside, yeah, I love the moment when they're breaking down the purpose of Susan B. Anthony, the same woman she claims to idolize, but she has zero clue about it. She's pretty much just using, being a woman as an excuse to, commit crimes and do whatever she wants to do without being held accountable for her actions.
When the girls confront her, they say nothing, and yet she believes that they're still on her side. They tell her about Susan B. Anthony's history, that in 1872 it was against the law for women to vote. Susan B. Anthony broke the law by voting and wanted to go to jail for her crime. She didn't want leniency or to just be let go just because she was a woman. She wanted to be treated like any man who broke the law. Femme Fatale.
And that's so ironic, given by modern day, where some women, let's like a good substantial amount of women out there, especially in the U.S., they end up getting the lesser crime compared to the male counterpart for committing the same crime. You can look it up. It happens tons of times. But it on the low is honestly on the basis of the fact that it's the fairer sex, and they just got this knee-jerk reaction to be lenient or show some level of mercy towards the fairer sex because she's a woman. She probably didn't know no better, or she must be manipulated. She couldn't just be like a straight up a-hole and wanted to be in this, because you wouldn't give that same grace to any man, because he could not use the excuse of, or nobody can use that excuse on him. He was manipulated by this woman, unless in some severe circumstances, like the guy happens to be a young child or something like that. But it's like a full-grown, able-bodied man, and he was like, he can't use this excuse like I was emotionally manipulated or anything like that, to get a lighter sentence. Like my parents wasn't there for me, to get a lighter sentence. The typical, excuses that is regurgitated by most women to get like lighter sentences. Or they can't pour on the crocodile tears, like most women could, in order to get instant sympathy. Can't do that. Guys can't do that. But Susan B. Anthony wanted to be treated as equals. You fought for equality. You can't pick and choose. That's the problem with like certain gender stuff to this day and age right now, because too many women want to treat equality like a buffet and pick the beneficial ones without any of the drawbacks coming from it. Sure, have equal rights, but there's a negative side to that. It's a double-edged sword. That means that if you want to get into like being a police officer, well, you're gonna have to go through the same training stuff as a man. That means that we can't lower the bar for anything for the female to make it easier for her to pass certain things. But they did, because the standards are too difficult for the vast majority of ladies. In order to get more women into the police force or the military, they have to adjust the training in order for them to compete. But that isn't equal. That's the problem. If it was Susan B. Anthony, she was like, no lowering the bar. If you want to be a police officer or you want to be in the military, the training has to be on the same standard as how men are. If you can't pass it, you don't get to be a military person or a police officer. That's equal. It just on the basis alone, like on the premise on the origin of feminism, equal rights. Okay, you have to, take it all. If a woman put her hands on a guy, just like any guy will put her hands on another guy, there will be a fight. But because like a girl puts her hands on a woman, if he retaliates, regardless of self-defense, he will be the one mainly in trouble. And even though some people might scold the woman, she won't get the kind of level of punishment as it would the other way. But a lot of feminists need to look at this freaking episode. Oh, and there's also a clip I want to show on my Twitter that I saw earlier today that I retweeted, luckily. So I'll show that.
Tries to talk her way out of this again, only to realize that she can't con her way out and tries to run away, only for the girls to do something that was long overdue. And the episode ends with FEMME FATALE in jail.
Booking.com has all kinds of...
Yeah, so, I mean, when men of yesteryear bestow women the rights that they've been marching for, I don't know if anybody addressed the drawback to that, or what it means to have like those rights. There, there's not like a overall good thing with no consequences. Like there's trade-offs. I don't think it was fair to not explain to women over the years of certain trade-offs into doing certain things. It's not like a free-for-all.
Okay, this episode was a lot, but it's a good a lot. The whole Powerpuff fan base likes to pick this episode apart, but I, even as an adult, love this episode. It is mature and teaches a lifelong lesson. Yes, there is injustice in the world, and sometimes there has to be extreme actions taken for there to be a real change. But, at the same time, there will always be people who use the excuse of it being for the cause, for their own selfish wants. Those are the people you gotta look out for. FEMME FATALE is just a hypocrite, claiming it's for women's rights, when she doesn't even know who Susan B. Anthony was or her history. She only chose the coins because a woman was on it. FEMME FATALE even claims that she's the only female supervillain in the city, and, hello, we have Sedusa and Princess Morbucks, and FEMME FATALE has only made one appearance, and it's this episode. Also, I'm not claiming to be an expert in social progress, but wouldn't that be a good thing? Even though this isn't actually the case, isn't it a good thing that there's only one female supervillain in the whole city? Doesn't that mean that more women don't have to live a life of crime and that there are equal opportunities for them?
Well, the thing is, more so, if you look at these villains, they're all kind of like a representation of like seven deadly sins and kind of thing. Like obviously, Princess is more greed and some level of like enviness, and while Sedusa's seem like a wrathful man eater, femme fatale, it's like, I don't know, this seems more I don't know, falls into the same category as like Lilith, the first woman that God created that was on equal footing as Adam, but refused to listen or submit to the leader of the relationship, causing a lot of problems. She ran away, became like the first demon S, and then Eve was created from the ribs to be like a proper support system. And I think like femme fatale kind of follows that mindset, where it's just like viewing man as an overall evil, as a general whole, without any understanding or parsing between the bad man and the good man. That's what the problem we have like nowadays with certain female activists or feminists right now who claim, no, we don't hate men. Yes, you do. Given what your actions and what you spew out there, you're just another modern day femme fatale in the Powerpuff Girls definition, where you just want to get away with stuff. You just do not like men. You, at the very least, you can have the ovaries to admit it, that you just don't like men. You was hurt by some guy in your past that broken your trust in some kind of way, did some kind of harm to you some kind of way. That particular man did not do his duty. He was like a straight up monster and deserved some kind of punishment for whatever action he might have bestowed upon you that wasn't deserved. But a lot of them carry that pain instead of dealing with it. They carry that pain, use activism as some kind of warped excuse in order to punish all men because they can't parse between the two, and just paint with a broad brush that some of them, not all of them, paint with a broad brush that these guys have some traits that relate to these guys that did me wrong, so they all are potentially bad. There are even some women out there who make videos talking about guys need to be put in prison when they're young until they prove that they're truly, the good guys. That is a wild statement, and they freely say it without any, without getting their platforms taken down or anything like that. Because the flip side, if a guy says something on the flip effect towards women out there, he doesn't have any channel, no YouTube, no Twitch, no TikTok, no Instagram, none of it, because it's just like not equal, mind you. Because if it was truly equal, then if a guy said anything horrendous like that towards a lady or a group of women, then equally, if a female out there goes on rants on social media talking horrendous stuff like young men need to be locked up as children, and to be proven that you're good, that is just like vile, and should get those same kind of punishments as if it was a man. But like I said, there's too many femme fatales out there who abuse the system, use the guise of female advocacy or feminism, and woe is me, look what a man did to me, as an overall excuse to say whatever they want, do whatever they want, and if they get any kind of punishment, it's not going to be as harsh if they get any punishment at all. That is like a major problem. That is not equal. As much as ladies of yesteryear marched for this kind of stuff, and men of yesteryear granted that, then there has to be some understanding of some level of responsibility with that power. It's like, yeah, a lady should be able to choose what kind of boyfriend or husband she wants, but in that choice, she have to operate on some level of discernment to choose what kind of guy that she chooses to open up her legs with or marry, and not just any dude that talks sweet nothings in her ear. She actually got to use her brain. But so many kind of using an excuse, oh, it's just his fault. No, you got to take partial responsibility too, because you're not an idiot. You just chose avoid certain red flags because he made you feel some type of way at that time until he shows you what kind of a D-bag he was. But by that time, you sunk a few years into this dude. You gave up your body to this dude. You did all the wifely duties to this dude, and he, of course, wouldn't appreciate it. He probably cheated on you, or worse, he might have, physically done harm to you. But it could all have been avoided if you had exercised your right to choose what kind of guy you're gonna be with, but understand what the guy is. It has to be something that you got to understand. Ask the right questions, or better yet, introduce him to your father or your brothers or your uncles, some male figure in your life that you trust to know, okay, this guy is a bad dude. Avoid him at all costs. That way, you can avoid any type of future pain. But it's just like, things is given to ladies just for the sake of, trying to right the wrongs of old, but in that process, not have some level of guardrails in the process.
Where they can make an affordable living, but I digress. This episode does prove the importance of equal rights, even showing what happens when someone tries to manipulate them for their own benefits. As they say, equal rights means equal fights. That also means you commit a crime, you've still got to pay for it.
You wouldn't hit a lady, would you?
The hammer of justice is unisex.
But those are just my thoughts.
Yeah, I like that. 1 second here. Now, one more thing to show. Let me prep it really quick. And I love that, that lives rent free in a lot of people's heads. The hammer of justice is unisex. I love that episode. It's so freaking good. 1 second here. Oh, here we go.
I didn't need you.
This was a clip from the Wonder Woman animated film in the early 2000s. 2009. So, hold on, let me see. Everything's right. Okay, good. Making sure.
I had to save you.
Ow!
I didn't need you to save me. I needed you to stop Ares.
Hey, if it weren't for me, you wouldn't be here right now.
I'm an Amazon, Steve. We're prepared from birth to give our lives in battle. I knew what the consequences were going into this mission. I bet you would have acted differently if I were a man.
Oh, playing the sex card again, are you? You know what? I've had just about enough of listening to you go on about how terrible men are.
Does the truth hurt, Steve?
Newsflash! The Amazons ain't so perfect either. You act brave, but cutting yourselves off from the outside world was cowardly. Not to mention, stupid. Like less communication between men and women is what the world needed.
How dare you?
No, I'm not done. You met your first man, what, like 15 minutes ago? And you think you have us all figured out? Well, I'm sorry, but not everything a man does is to further some misogynistic agenda. We don't hold doors open or pull out chairs for women because we're trying to keep you down. And I didn't save you because I thought you were some damsel in distress. I saved you because I care about you, Diana. And I'm not gonna abandon a friend in need, man or woman.
You should have saved the world instead of me.
Maybe I figured the world's not worth saving if you're not in it.
Yeah. Because, it gets kind of like, we hear certain rhetoric from some women out there, especially on these social media pages, talking about like how bad men are. but there's too many good men. A lot of them they tend to overlook because they so hyper focus on the terrible men. There's a way more good men out there in the world who are either indifferent or actually really appreciate females out there in the world. And and it's kind of sickening that a lot of them spew this mess, paint this warped picture that men have this deep-seated like need to hold women back or hurt women in some kind of way. Like that's all that we're bred to do is just mistreat women like it's like an innate drive or something like that. A lot of men that just want to go to work and go home, have a beer, eat, and just try to live their lives. We don't spend newsflash, don't spend every waking moment trying to figure out ways to harm ladies. By and large, we either indifferent or we, try to go out of the way to do something nice for you. It's the ladies on the other end is kind of like trying to uproot the natural order. Like a guy wants to be chivalrous, wants to help you with your heavy luggage, but a long time ago, you see this plenty of times, many videos about like men getting chastised for from women like, I can do it myself. I don't need no man. It's a lot. And it's just like, young ladies growing up hear that stuff and they, soak it in because they're impressionable and they end up growing up and regurgitating it without understanding that by and large, men are, are benevolent. Well, like we don't hold doors for you just because we're trying to hold you down, like Steve Trevor said. We do it because it's just a chivalrous thing. We were taught right. Lots of men have been taught open up the door for lady, helping them with their heavy objects or reaching tall things because often they're too short to reach certain things. Just be gentle with them. Approach them in a gentle manner instead of and not in the way you would a guy. We pay for the first date. Be cordial, be courteous. Make sure you're punctual. Dress appropriately. It's like make sure like she's taken care of. You marry her or even get with her. Just make sure it's like she's secure and safe and happy. That kind of stuff. Lots of men have been taught that from a very young age. It was unfortunate that young women has not been taught for at least for a very, very, very long time, outside of maybe some wife school, taught how to treat men as they out in public, because they don't feel the need because they think I am the table, I'm just there, just going off their looks that will fade eventually, so they don't have to put in the actual work or effort into trying to learning how to understand what men will like in general and not just a specific type of man. But yeah, I just really want to talk about that. This is like a very helpful thing that both men and women need to see, especially these so-called feminists out there need to see these things to kind of reevaluate how they see the world and see men, because it's unhealthy to see the men as constant like either villains or idiots, because that doesn't help the woman in the long run. But I'm curious to know what you guys think about the Femme Fatale video, and leave a comment below, and I will see you guys in a little bit because I got a couple more videos for tonight. So I will see you all soon. Peace.